What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another exclusive interview on behalf of PW Ponderings. My name is Scott Mitchell, and joining me today is Airica Demia. How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty good.
I wanted to start from the beginning a little bit for you, and that is when and why did you first get into professional wrestling?
So I've been watching wrestling for my whole life, pretty much. My dad is is a wrestler. He's not really retired, but not really consistently wrestling because he's 41 and has been doing this since I think he started training in 2003. So that says everything it needs to. Um, but I watched his shows when I was like in strollers. Um, when I was around 7 is when I really started showing interest in being a wrestler. And my dad was like, absolutely not. You're insane. You've lost your mind. No. Um, and then around that time, I actually got into TV wrestling because when I was younger, I didn't know anything about TV wrestling. I didn't know what WWE was. I didn't really know, well, NXT didn't exist when I was a kid, but um, I wasn't super familiar with all that stuff. And then one day, I think my dad had a bunch of people over and he turned on an NXT pay-per-view and I was like, "What is this?" And they're like, "It's wrestling." I'm like, "Well, yeah." Anyways, it was just like a whole different world for me and um around 14 is when my dad was like, "Hey, you want to try training?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been begging for this for a while now. Yes, please." um, I started training, and he was like, "Man, you do better than some of the grown men that I've had to see train before." And I'm like, "Yep, it's because I've been watching you train people, and I have kept in my brain of what not to do because I don't like getting yelled at." um, that's pretty much the beginning of that story.
So, when in your life, when was the moment that you were like, "This is kind of what I want to do with my life. This is why what I want to do is I want to be a professional wrestler."
Um, I don't know. There wasn't really like a specific moment where I was like, this is what I want to do because I've wanted to wrestle for a long time, but it took me, I don't know when I decided this was going to be like a career. It was definitely early on, around 14. I was like, yeah, I think I want to go pretty far with this. I don't know if that was like a career decision. I don't know. I have a foggy memory from around that time. Um, but yeah, I was, yeah. There was a while where I didn't get to train. And I feel like that's when I really realized that, oh, maybe I really do want to do this, you know? So I started training where my dad was, and then that place shut down for COVID. And then I went to PWA, Palmetto Wrestling Academy. Has a logo. It might be backwards. I don't know. um, but PWA is the main reason that I am where I am right now. Obviously, other than my dad, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad, quite literally. But yeah, PWA has done so much for me. And they really helped me realize that this is what I wanted to do, especially since during COVID, I got super depressed because I was like, I can't train anymore. This sucks. And then somebody recommended the academy to me and my dad, and we started showing up. And I was so scared of the head trainer, Ethan Case. I could not look that man in the eye. But he's definitely helped me change for the better because here I am talking way too much when I couldn't even talk to a stranger at all when I was 15. Um, yeah. I don't really have a distinct moment being like, this is what I want to do, but I remember kind of easing into that feeling, if that makes sense.
For sure. And, we've seen you grow tremendously as a wrestler in your young career still. And, you became Airica Demia, who has this anime type of persona, which is a lot of fun. We love it. But so when you set out to become a professional wrestler, is that who you knew you wanted to become in the ring?
So the name Airica Demia actually started kind of as a joke. Um, I don't remember how old I was when I made my Instagram. I think it was 2019, so I was probably like 14. Was it before I started training? I don't remember. Um, my dad, we were in an ice cream shop, and I think I had a cone or something. I don't know. In case anybody was wondering what kind of ice cream I like ice cream cones. um, we were trying to come up with a name for my Instagram. My dad just randomly threw out, "Hey, how about my Insta Airica Demia, like My Hero Academia?" And I was like, "That's genius! I wish I would have thought of that." And then I spent, I had like a whole list of names about, it was like the length of this paper. It was like down both sides, a list of names. And we were like, these are terrible. I hate all of them. None of them sound good. I was trying to make Zelda references, and there was probably a Hobbit reference in there. And then one day he was like, why don't you just use Academia? Like, why not? And I'm like, I don't know. That's just like kind of a joke name, right? And then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? That's kind of genius. um, that's how that came about. Well, okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit because I missed part of the story. Uh, when I was 14, around the time when I started training, we started watching the show My Hero Academia. So it was definitely after I started training that we came up with this. Um, and my dad's best friend told us to watch the first episode. He came over and he's like, I'm turning this on. You guys are gonna sit here and watch it. And both of us cried within the first 20 minutes of, well, episodes are only 20 minutes. Probably the first 10 minutes of the episode, maybe less. Um, and we were like, well, this is our new favorite show, at least for the time being. And I really resonated with the main character, Izuku Midoriya or Deku, because I was 14. I was a skinny little kid. I had this huge dream. Nobody believed in me, and I was a massive crybaby. My hair is green because of this too. Just in case anybody's wondering why my hair is green, it's because of Izuku Midoriya. Um, hold on, I have one of my Izuku Midoriya pops right
Oh,
here.
that's
That's
awesome.
just one. I have six at least, I think. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Uh,
They're all different too. I also have these little stuffies. There's one. Hold on, there's another. Oh, I dropped him. Oh, he's stuck. There's two. I counted the other day. I have almost 30 pieces of Deku merchandise in my room. Oh, sorry, my dad just hit the wall. But yeah, you could say I had an obsession, but not like a weird, creepy obsession, more like a I strive to be this level of cool, but also, well, I mean, the beginning of the show, Deku isn't really cool, but he was to me because he was chasing his dreams no matter what, no matter how horrible people were to him. He was just, other than my dad, he was my hero, if that makes sense. And All Might was like him, and All Might is like Deku's kind of father figure within being a hero. So it just kind of worked out.
for sure. And, how awesome is it for you to kind of be able to combine two of your biggest passions in life, it seems, with anime and professional wrestling. And, the videos we see on Instagram, the editing that you do, it's an amazing style. And I'll plug your Instagram and socials below because I love like the whole My Hero Academia. It's just like it's so much fun. I'm not the biggest anime guy, like but it like just being able to combine the two, how important is that for you?
Honestly, I think it's really cool that I get to do something like that because there are so many people that come into wrestling and they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, dude, like a lot of people give the advice of, hey, be yourself, but not everybody really knows what that means. Like, I didn't know what that meant. So I took similarities that I had with a character and I put it into a gimmick. And I feel like that made it way easier for me, like especially coming in, it made me different, it made me more creative, Um, like every set of gear I had was based on Izuku Midoriya, but I made it me. I drew it out and I took it to high spots and I was like, "Can you guys do this for me?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then I got it and it looked exactly like it. And I was like, "This is the best day of my life." Um, but it's just kept evolving and evolving and evolving. And the one thing that I don't think I'm going to change, this is from my second set of gear, is I got little shoulder pads because that's what Deku has on his thing. And through every set of gear since that one, that's what I have on it. And that's what I feel makes it me, even though I literally blatantly ripped it off from an anime. I just make it look like the set of gear, or have people make it look like the set of the gear, just like match colors and all that. Um, I'm gonna take a second to breathe because I forget how to breathe when I'm talking sometimes. What was the question?
Oh no, just being able to compare, just being able to combine, like your two passions, whether it be anime, wrestling, kind of being able to merge the two.
I feel like I got really lucky being able to do this, especially since there's not a lot of people who have super thought out anime gimmicks other than like Kid Bandit, um, Cosmic. Um, I feel like there's other people. There's a few other people. I can't think of them off the top of my head, and I feel really bad. If anybody's watching this and we have an anime gimmick, I'm talking to you about you, and I'm so sorry. um, but I feel like having something like that coming into wrestling made my life so much easier. Even though uh the promos, it took me a long time to get to those. My dad is actually the reason that I'm good at promos because that is like character and promos were my dad's thing. And he does the editing for most of the promos too. He's really good at it. He's been doing it for years. Um, yeah, I feel very fortunate that I was able to find something like that to do with my dad, but also just on my own. And I'm evolving the character and I'm making it more me. And I'm figuring out through this medium who I am. I'm
For
going
sure.
to stop talking now.
You're fine. I and not to get a little deep here, but it is a question I wanted to ask you. Obviously we know your dad was in pro wrestling. How fun is it for you to kind of get to live this life with your father by your side as a mentor, as because he's kind of been where you are, just in like maybe a different generation, but like how cool is it for you to have that?
90% of the time, it's pretty freaking dope. The other 10% is when he's like, "You didn't do this right. I know you can be better. Come on now." But that's just with parents in general. Like he's not the worst. I've heard some horror stories about dads in wrestling, let me tell you. Um, I will not be spilling the tea on that, but both him and I know who we're talking about. And it cracks me up every time. Um, but yeah, I feel there's so many people in wrestling who are like, yeah, my parents never really supported me, and I'm like, I wish you could have had a dad like mine. Because for one, he's really cool outside of wrestling too, because he has two full arm sleeves. Like he likes anime, he likes video games, he plays Donkey Kong on a regular basis, he likes Zelda. Like the reason that my room is decked out in wrestling and anime stuff is because of my dad and my mom too. She's cool too. Cool parents. She also has a lot of tattoos. I only have two. I need more tattoos. Which they paid for both of my tattoos 2 days after my 18th birthday, which is also really dope.
That's awesome.
um, yeah, I love my dad. I have probably the coolest dad ever.
It's awesome, and I could tell just by talking to you, like just how important your relationship is with him. And obviously, like any parent, they'll tell you like how to better yourself and how to, fix mistakes that you've made. But
And we do fight. That's yeah. It's normal. It's okay. Uh Sometimes we're a little meaner to each other than we should be, but
there's definitely a
we
lot
still
of
love each other.
Exactly. And there's definitely a lot of horror stories that I've heard that I will not be spilling the tea on either, but
Yeah.
from friends of mine in this crazy world whose parents don't support them. I guess that's super important to like have your family behind you, have your mom and dad behind you. Because I don't want to leave your mom out just because your dad was a wrestler. I'm sure your
Yeah.
mom is equally as supportive, but you know,
She
it,
actually tried training at one point. It just wasn't for her. And she's like, y'all do your thing. I'm going to stay over here.
and
Y'all have fun. I love you guys. I support you. But my dad also had, unfortunately, had the experience of not having the most supportive parents. They're a lot better now than they were when he was wrestling. They support me a lot more, which is nice, but it's also like my dad sometimes is like, man, where was that for me? What's this? Uh, nah, it's usually a joke. Sometimes it's just like, well, I'm glad they're better now, I guess.
yeah, no, it definitely makes a difference for sure. For sure. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, you have a massive few months coming up, couple months, probably more. More dates aren't announced yet, but let's speak with what we do know. We'll start with Uprising, because that's one of my favorite promotions around today. And it's pretty much, I don't want to say it's brand new, but it's fairly new and it's already on fire. Like, how important is it to have a woman's promotion, a woman's wrestling promotion when, you know, maybe 10 years or so ago, people viewed them as bathroom breaks, and I'm so happy that's changed, but it's come such a long way. But how important is that to you to kind of see?
I've never really heard anyone phrase it like viewing it like bathroom breaks, but that's a really great way for you to put it. I mean, it sucks for the
Oh,
women that
yeah,
had to go through that, but they went through that so that people like me could soar in the business. And it is so insanely important to have good women's promotions run by people who know how to book women's wrestling, which is the exact same way you would book a men's promotion, just with certain things in mind, if that makes sense.
yeah,
I couldn't name what those things are because I don't run a promotion. um, but I feel very fortunate to be part of Uprising, especially because it's part of Dreamwave. Dreamwave is one of the bigger indie promotions right now, and there's so much fantastic talent in there and in Uprising. And I feel like working for both promotions is going to do nothing but make me better.
for sure. And it's such a shame and like that how it used to be like with the whole bathroom break comment because I remember I was speaking to so I'm fortunate enough to get to do what I do and interview some top amazing indie talents, not only women's. I know you'll see on my YouTube channel it's a lot of women's talent, but I promise to people watching this it's both. But it's because I've gotten a lot of flack from people and being like, "Oh, it's weird that you only work with women's." No, it's both, I promise. But the
Sometimes YouTube only likes to push the women content because YouTube and stuff is weird.
Yep, 100%. But it's something that like it's kind of sad to see like how some people still view women's wrestling to this day, and that's why it's so amazing seeing Uprising come out and perform and hit knockout after knockout. Those shows are incredible. And it's a prime example of why women's wrestling is professional wrestling and as a whole. Like one of the
Mm-hmm.
top divisions in TNA is the Knockouts division. One of the top divisions in WWE is the NXT Women's division.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to look at that, like they've come a long way, but what are your hopes for the future when it comes to women's wrestling and continuing to evolve?
Honestly, there are still people who are like, women shouldn't be wrestling men. Like, women who wrestle men are ruining women's wrestling. And it's usually men saying that, which is funny because, like, no offense to any men who know women's wrestling really, really well, men don't get to determine what women's wrestling is. Women do because they're the ones doing it. And we should be treated like legitimate competitors just as men are. And I hope to be somebody who makes sure that even if there's just one women's match on a show, nobody views it as a bathroom break out of respect for my opponent, but also out of respect for myself and respect for people who are going to be in that spot after me because we deserve better. And I don't want a man to be like a bathroom break match either because that sucks. Like
Yeah.
I don't I don't know for sure if I've ever been like a bathroom break kind of match. Um because there was a long time earlier in my career where I would just block out the crowd because I had such bad stage fright. I'm just now getting over that after 2 years. Like this year, 2025, I'm just now getting to the point where I can see the people watching me and not be terrified of them. Because because I have to think about it like they're there to see me. Because if I don't think about it like that, then I am a bathroom break match. And I nobody wants that, you know? Nobody wants to be viewed as, hey, we're gonna put your match here as a cool down match. My I'm gonna take a breath real quick before I get back on this. A lot of promoters tend to put their women's matches in a spot that could be considered a cool down before or in between like a really cool men's match and then another really cool men's match. But my point, my goal, I don't know the other word I was looking for. I had it and then it was gone. My goal every single time is to be like, no, I am going to be just as good as your men are, if not better, because that's what I was trained to do. That's what Ethan taught me to do. That's what James Johnson, who also trains people at the academy, taught me to do. And that's what my dad taught me to do. So that's what I'm going to do.
100%. And I truly love your attitude on it. And truthfully, that's what the world needs more of is, women's wrestling as a whole is on fire right now. Some of the greatest matches on shows full of men are the women's matches.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a VPW show not too long ago. Loved them. Great match. One of the women's matches on the show was Brittany Brooks and Notorious Mimi. That wasn't the main
Mm-hmm.
event. Personally, I think it was a match of the night. Incredible.
They're
But
both incredible workers too. I also
100%.
feel like I owe thanks to some women in the Carolinas like Mila Johnson and Brittany Jade and Savannah Evans because they all came before me and they worked really, really hard to make women in the Carolinas more respected. They've been working, I think Mila Johnson's been working as long as I've been training and training. She started training a few years before I did. Um, and she was severely underappreciated. And she's tried to make women's wrestling in the Carolinas a lot better. And that's something that I'm also trying to strive for because in the Carolinas, it tends to be it's not near as bad as it was, but in the Carolinas, it's a little bit harder for women to get their names out there until we travel out of the state. And getting to the point where we can travel out of the state, it's a little difficult. But those women worked really hard to build that up.
For sure. And, massive congratulations to them because they've all been killing it in their own right. And your match on April 11th, I had to look at the date just to make sure I got it right, is going to be against another three, I almost said four, but you're included in the four, three of the top women on the indie scene today. You're going to be challenging for Rebecca J. Scott's Uprising Alternative Championship. What is that like for you heading into that? And what's your mindset heading into that match?
Honestly, I feel very honored to be stepping into the ring with I also almost said four with three women of their caliber because Rebecca Scott and the gnome herself and Emily J, they're all so like respected and I haven't been working near as long as them, but I I really hope to build my name up to a point where I'm seen the way that they are, if that makes sense. Not that I'm not respected, but they have a little bit more eyes on them and they have bigger people. I don't know, but I'm really glad to be part of a match like that. Also, getting a challenge for a belt is pretty cool, even though I haven't been working there as long as I wish I had been. I wish I've been working there for a lot longer.
You are becoming a staple of Uprising, though. You're at the last couple shows, I want to say. You've been killing it in every match that you've been in there. What is it like being a part of that whole promotion, and how much fun has it been to be a part of that locker room?
The atmosphere at every show that I'm at, like every single one of their shows that I'm at, is absolutely fantastic. I am a very introverted person. You would not know that from this interview. When I'm in person talking to people, I have a hard time talking. I forget words. I stutter and I'm not great at making eye contact. But they make me feel so welcome and safe. It's getting to, I feel like it's going to get to a point where that's like a home away from home, if that makes sense.
For sure. And the next day you are going to be a guest at RetroCon. How important is that to you to be a guest now and kind of comparing it to when you were a fan going to these conventions and now you're going to be a guest at one?
Honestly, it's pretty cool. They kind of reached out out of nowhere too. It was like, I think we met somebody at a show, at a pro wrestling turbo show. And they were like, "Hey, do you guys want to do this convention thing?" And we were like, "Yes, we would love to." Um, I didn't go to as many Comic Cons as I would have liked when I was younger, but I am a huge convention fan. I love comic books. I love like pretty much all nerdy things. I love video games. I like uh Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. I don't know if that's okay to say, but I like the Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
Anyways, you have to cut that out.
No, you're fine. You're
I
fine.
don't know what the stuff on Harry Potter is anymore, but I know there was a while where it's like,
The movies were good. I mean, the person who wrote the books, maybe not, but the movies, the acting, the characters, they were
that
legend. So
that
yeah,
um but yeah, I'm into pretty much all nerdy, well, not all nerdy things. There are certain things I'm like, but being able to be somebody who's standing behind a table like waiting for these people to come up to me is honestly, it's kind of cool. I have done some work with fantasy super cosplay wrestling, which we basically do the same thing. So if this was my first time doing it, I would be extremely stoked because that's how I felt with FSCW. But this also could be an entirely different experience. So I'm looking forward to something new overall.
for sure. And later this month at Viral Pro Wrestling, you're going to be teaming up with Gustavo to take on Mila Johnson, who we spoke a little bit about, and James Johnson. What's that like for you to be able to work with Mila, someone who you respect a lot from the Carolinas, and James Johnson as well in his own right, as well as teaming up with Gustavo? I don't want to leave him out.
I met Gustavo a couple of times. He's pretty cool. I respect what he does. But getting to team against it is Mila, by the way.
Um,
Just no worries. Um, Getting the team against them, two people that I'm fairly comfortable with. It's really nice because I'm not the most experienced when it comes to tag team wrestling, but I am getting better. My dad is doing his best to make me better because anytime I screw something up, he's like, "Kid, come on, you can't be putting this on my name." um, but I'm very excited to be able to team against them.
For sure. And, tag team wrestling, I remember I was fortunate to work with Charlie Haas not too long ago. And for anyone who doesn't know, legendary tag team guy from WWE with Team Angle. But he was speaking too, and he said tag team wrestling is a lost art, and it really is because tag team wrestling used to be like amazing. Like I'm talking WWE style tag team wrestling, and I know it's making a resurgence a little bit. But, being able to compete in a tag team match, how do you feel about like, getting to wrestle that type of match compared to just a singles match or a every woman for themselves match or every person for themselves match?
I feel hmm, that's an interesting question. I am happy to be part of it, but sometimes I feel like I don't know enough to do that kind of wrestling justice. I'm not trying to bury myself because I am very good for the most part at what I do, but I still have a lot to learn about tag team wrestling, and I want to make sure I always do my best to do that style of wrestling justice, especially because I'm surrounded by so many people who are so good at it and love it so much because my trainers would agree with you. It is kind of a lost art. And they all were very, very good tag team wrestlers. And I'm over here and I'm like, hi. I'm doing my best.
I'm sure it's going to be a great match, though, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys all go at it. That's going to be a good one.
I
So
hope so.
definitely. So I also wanted to speak about on April 23rd, WCW, Woman Crush Wednesday. What's your mindset heading into that match? I don't know if you have a match that's announced yet, but if you don't, just what's your mindset heading into that show?
I don't believe I have a match announced. So I'm not quite to the point where I have a game plan. Um, but I'm very excited to go somewhere new for sure with a bunch of different women that I might have worked with, but there's also some women that I haven't worked with yet. So that'll be cool.
And there another promotion where it's similar to Uprising all woman promotion. How much fun do you have at these like type of all woman promotions where it's just like it's almost like a girls' night out essentially, like But how much fun do you really have at these types of events too?
Honestly, I have a lot of fun because I trained with a bunch of guys and it's really nice to be able to hang out with and work with and talk to a bunch of women who are that have been pretty much in the same boat as I am. And it also challenges me a little bit because I don't get to stand out on a show just by being a woman. I have to put in more effort to stand out in a show full of women. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure. And it's going to be, I don't know who you're going up against, but I'm sure it's going to be an amazing night because that card looks stacked. I think
Mm-hmm.
Masha's going to be there and she's like one of the top women in wrestling right now. She's doing
Absolutely.
is insane. I'm a big fan of Masha, so I love what she's doing. I also wanted to speak a little bit about Intergender Bonanza.
Mm.
Before I get to your match, I want to talk a little bit about intergender wrestling as a whole because there's a lot of times when some people view intergender wrestling with sour taste. Some people view it like maybe, it's not a type of wrestling that should be happening. But the thing is, it's an art like tag team wrestling, like singles wrestling, like men's, women's, it doesn't matter. But the thing is, like, how important is it to you to kind of put into intergender wrestling on the map?
I find it to be very important because, for one, a lot of women, that's how we're trained. We're trained to wrestle with men, we're trained to beat our bodies up in a way that makes us just as strong as these men. And we have to, if anything, we have to learn how to be stronger because especially if you're in a place where it's like, hey, all of you are going to be trained the exact same. You guys will not take it easy on her. We have to, we're going to have to up our game a little bit. And I feel like it's important to have intergender wrestling not only to show that we're just as strong, but to show that we're equal competitors to men. And even if I'm against someone that is twice my size, I can still figure out a way to beat him because even in like Greco-Roman wrestling, it's usually not about the size of the other person versus you. It's about how you can manipulate their body weight against them. And it can be the same thing in this kind of wrestling. And like it can also be like, oh, I'm quicker, or oh, I know certain things that'll take this guy down. So we're equal competitors, even if we don't look like we are.
100%. And I did a fun interview with Joey Janela that you can find on the channel down below somewhere. We spoke about and one of the best matches I've ever seen before in my life beyond wrestling, Shamrock Slam, Megan Bayne versus Joey Janela. Janela told me, like, quote unquote, he's never had a match so good where the two competitors started dating 7 days later. And
That's really funny.
it's true, obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, they are actually dating. But so it's when you think of intergender wrestling and you see that's a prime match right there, Megan Bayne versus Joey Janela. That match beyond wrestling, Shamrock Slam, the atmosphere, the aura, the match itself was all terrific. So for
Mhm.
anyone who doesn't know about intergendering, I challenge you, go watch that match and say you're not a fan of it because that match will make you a fan. But representing Intergender Bonanza as their champion, you're going up against Austin Luke, who's talented in his own right for sure. How important is it to you to represent intergender wrestling, represent Intergender Bonanza as a top champion too?
Honestly, I think that me representing it kind of puts a lot of things into perspective because I did not start in this sport talented. I had to work really hard to get there. And I was the most unathletic, skinny 14-year-old kid you would ever meet in your life. I was 100 pounds soaking wet, still almost like I'm like 5'8". So I was itty bitty. But I had to work really hard to get to where I am. And I feel like at this point, I feel like I've earned it. It's taken me a long time to be able to say that, but I feel like I've worked hard enough to get to a point where, yeah, I am somebody who can represent an entire company like with a belt and with like especially this is a massive thing for me because so many people look down on intergender wrestling like we said. I feel very honored to be able to represent such a I don't know if it's like a movement. I don't know that's not the word I'm looking for, but I think you know what I mean. um it is a lot of it's a quite a bit of pressure, but I feel the people in charge don't make me feel pressured because they're like, "Nah, man, you earned this. You got this. We believe in you." And my dad's there to always be like, "Nah, you're good. You got this." Sometimes he's like, "Hey, check your ego a little bit, but you're good and you have worked for this."
For sure. And, you know, your matchup with Austin Luke specifically, what's your mindset heading into that match working with Austin Luke, who's talented as hell in his own right? Big fan of Austin Luke, too.
I am working on doing research, but it's also a match that's quite far in advance. So I'm focusing more so on the ones that are a little bit closer. So as it gets closer to it, I will do more research and I will have a lot more of a game plan. But yeah, I got some stuff in between that I got to worry about a little bit.
For sure.
But I am
And
looking forward to it. I can say that. I am very excited. I have seen his work before. I watched him wrestle, I think, Janai Kai, and it was fantastic. I loved it. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
for sure. And, you know, later, or not later that month, actually, I should say, at the beginning of May, you will be taking part in Indiana's biggest all women's pro wrestling event.
Mm-hmm.
Queendom is the company, is a promotion. But what you're going to be working with Maggie Lee and Metro, and Maggie Lee has to be one of the most talented women on the entire indie scene. She got signed to TNA recently.
Mm-hmm.
Love everything she's done, what she's doing with Uprising, Dreamwave. What is that like for you heading into that triple threat?
I've been preparing for this match since a little before she got signed, actually. So there's a little more pressure on me now for keeping that belt, especially since she was the first one to hold that belt. Um, I am looking forward to stepping into the ring with both of these women because they are both extremely talented, and Maggie 100% deserves that contract without a doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. Hopefully, there's no doubt in anyone's mind. Um, but it's gonna take a lot for me to hold on to that belt. I'm gonna have to probably have to do some cardio. If I'm being honest. Just go to the gym a little extra before that one.
That match is going to be insane. I don't know if it's main eventing yet. I think that'll come out later, maybe.
Yeah, probably
Good
some
main
point.
event. That match is going to be absolutely insane. You, Maggie Lee, Metro, in her own right, she's very talented too, and I don't want to leave her out. But working with Maggie, who did just get signed specifically, seeing everything that she's accomplished at Dreamwave, how happy were you when you did see that she was signed to TNA?
So when I first found out, I think I was sitting in my room playing my Switch, and my dad went, "Yo, Maggie Lee just got signed to TNA," and I was like, "Yo, that's dope." So that was the interaction for that. I was like, "She deserves it," and he's like, "I agree." Yeah, that's the best how I can best explain that. I got very excited.
And so the day after that, you're going to be wrestling for Bullpen, and you're going to be in a triple threat with Gypsy Mac, who is one of my personal favorites too on the indie scene, incredibly talented, as well as Carter Kaufman or Carter Kaufman. I don't know how you pronounce the last name. Some people pronounce it differently.
I'm not quite sure
I
yet either, but I will find out at some point.
I say Kaufman because I have a friend with that last name, and that's how they say it is Kaufman. So that's why I say it, but maybe she pronounces it differently.
Maybe.
But what is your mindset heading into that one and working with Gypsy, who's been killing it all over the West Coast and, just, and as well as Carter?
So, like I said earlier with the Austin Loop thing, I haven't quite gotten around to doing my research on the two. I do follow them both on Instagram, and I have seen that they're both like doing really well for themselves. So, I don't know if I should be intimidated or excited or both. I'm probably gonna end up going with both, but I'm excited to step in the ring with both of them as well.
For sure. And for not your final match in May, but the final match that we know that's I guess announced for May, Bell to Bell, another all women's promotion. You're gonna be challenging Gabby Ortiz for the Diamond Championship.
Mhm.
You're no stranger to collecting gold. You have a lot of gold now. Are you looking to add another piece to your already heavy luggage, I would say probably.
Naturally, I mean, if I don't win, it won't be the end of the world. It'll just be a lesson learned. But the goal in every match is obviously to win, to be better than the other opponent, or be better than your opponent. And I mean, who's gonna say no to gold? Who doesn't want to win more? I mean, even being a hero, we still like gold.
100%. And you are no stranger to gold in your own right. You have, I want to say, four championships. Three. I knew it was either three or four. But how much fun has it been to kind of get every championship that you have and know that you're representing the company in a way?
Some of it's been a little shocking and a little abrupt with the opportunity of getting the championship match. I'm like, oh, we're doing this. Okay, cool. That's dope. Actually, all of them were abrupt. I wasn't expecting any of them really. They kind of just came out of the blue. But it's really nice to know that I'm good enough that a company wants to put that on my shoulders and wants me to represent their belt and their brand and put me as the face of their division or women's division, like their whole company, like Intergender Bonanza. I am the super champion. Um, for Hooligan Championship Wrestling, I am their women's champion, or I'm one of their champions. There's another women's belt. I can't remember the name of it, and I feel really bad. Kylie Alexa holds that one. Um, and then for Viral Pro Wrestling in Georgia, I am their women's champion. And also, it's a yellow belt. It's really pretty. I really like it. It's very different from I think any belt I've seen. All my belts are pretty. I'm just saying, but the yellow is definitely unique. It's really nice to be put in that position. I just realized how much I've been saying and like starting all my sentences the same. Oops.
You're fine, I promise. So looking ahead for you, I always like to end off each interview with kind of the same question. What is next for you? Do you have any future goals, future opponents you'd like to face? Um, what is next for you?
Well, as of right now, I'm working really hard to try to get an opportunity to travel to a different country, whether that be Canada, UK, Japan. I really, really want to go to Japan. Obviously, as an anime lover, as a Nintendo lover, I am a weeb all around. I really want to wrestle in Japan. I also really want an excuse to go to the Nintendo Museum. I'm
I would,
gonna buy my dad a giant Wii remote. Hello.
I'd love to check out that museum. That museum looks insane.
Agreed. I'm not going to go on a tangent about that because that's not what the interview is about. Um, I'm really hoping to travel out of the country soon. I actually had a fellow graduate who went to the UK recently, um, and that was super cool. He's the first out of the academy to, I think, to fly overseas. His name is Tristan Moody. It's pretty cool.
So, is there any future, not future, is there any message that you want to leave off the interview to anyone watching, to anyone listening, to anyone who might be reading it, depending on, whatever outlet you're getting this information from? But is there any message you could promote yourself, your socials, um, or just say whatever you want to tell people?
So I usually like to answer that question with a line from Azuka Midoriya, which is dreams can become reality. That's one that's really helped me get through a lot. Even though it's just an anime character, he's a made up character. He's from a made up show, a made up world. It's still, I try to make sure it stays in the back of my mind at all times because there's a lot of times where I will hold myself back. And that is the only person that can ever hold you back is you. Nobody else is going to hold you back unless they're physically holding you back, which push them out of the way, get them out of here. Um, chase your dreams, follow your heart. Like, don't hurt people, but do what makes you happy unapologetically. Man, I was doing so good, and then I stuttered.
You're good. And I'll plug all your socials down below, Twitter,
Thank you.
Instagram. I don't know if you have a Facebook that you want promoted, but
I do.
Twitter. Okay, you could text me that, Rick.
Okay. I was
But
gonna say I'll write it down, but I can't find a sticky note.
I know you're But Twitter, Instagram, Facebook will all be in the description below to continue supporting Airica Demia. Do you have anywhere they could buy merch or shows or I mean I guess at shows or a website?
So I do sell 8x10s through my Instagram. I post them on my stories every once in a while. If anybody's interested, just DM me. If I don't see your message immediately, I'm really sorry. I have a lot that I have to go through. I also have a Patreon, which you should be able to find. I'll send you the link for it too, so you can put it in there
Yeah,
because it'll make both of our lives easier. I also have a pro wrestling tees, which will be easy enough to find. Other than that, I hold on. I'm struggling. I have a lot of merch that I sell exclusively at shows. I have stickers, I have keychains, I have a bunch of 8x10s. What else do I have? I have pins, like button pins that you can pin on a shirt or a backpack. Um, I think that's it. uh, yeah.
Oh,
If anybody
well,
wants 8x10s, just send me a DM.
well, everybody go support Erica Demia. She's terrific. She's gonna be a household name sooner than later. She's one of the best up and coming stars on the indie scene today. Thank you again so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I talk so much.
don't be sorry, I promise. I loved it. It was a pleasure to work with you. You're someone I wanted to work with for a while. So
That's nice. Thank you. Appreciate that.
no problem. And I hope you have a great night.
You too. Thank you.